Welcome to Website Agency Secrets, the podcast. My name is Timothy Sarrazin, and I'm so excited to talk to you today about analytics. So what website analytics should you track, and more importantly, why? This is a very complex world with lots of confusion, and so let's discover our goals. Know what terms mean and which ones are important. Knowing which KPIs to track, as in like what particular analytics are important for you and why, and then what analytics matter. If you've dove into this concept before or even tracking any website analytics, you can see there's always a lot of information. And so if I can help you today know which information to look for and why, I think that's going to be a big win that a lot of local business owners need. This is the podcast for local business owners to own their local market through their website. And website is where it all starts. And so I'm excited to talk about this very important thing, your website analytics. If you're not tracking what matters or why, then you don't know how to improve. So this is why it's a very early topic for us to discuss. And let's dive in. So first of all, don't fear the analytics button. Why do people fear the analytics button? Well, when they click on it, it doesn't actually help them. It's confusing. Maybe they see something that's all red and they're like, oh no, something's broken. So we're going to clear that up today. And this goes for website companies too. So website companies are afraid of this button because it might shine a spotlight on whether or not their product is working or not. So running a website agency like I do, I get to hear the story from many local business owners that pay other people to do websites for them. And sometimes the website company is just as afraid of the analytics as the consumer because it would just say that they're doing a bad job. And so how many website companies respond when their clients ask about their analytics is, let me just throw a bunch of confusing data at you and maybe it'll just shut you up. Like, let's use a bunch of industry jargon and it's going to really seem like I know what I'm talking about. But in reality, I'm just using a bunch of words that are given to me to try to talk big talk. So that's an unfortunate truth of website agencies. And so hopefully through this session, you'll understand I'm not like that. My team isn't like that. And here's why. It's all about intentionality around what you are tracking. So here's some common analytics jargon that gets thrown out there a lot are visitors. Pretty straightforward, but it's actually a pretty complex thing when talking about visitors because we also have something called unique visitors. We'll dive into that in a minute. Acquisition overview, referral sources, conversion rates, user sessions, bounce rates, and exit pages. We're going to cover these topics today. We are barely scratching the surface of website analytics and keeping in mind every website has a different purpose. But if you've been following the Website Agency Secrets podcast, I talk about the purpose of your website for local business owners is what is your community's perception of you? And so if their perception of you is positive, that's going to result in specific analytics. And so the following advice and suggestions that I'm giving are really geared towards local business owners looking to make an impact on their local community when their local community Google searches their keywords. That is what we are all about at NextRep Websites and what most of our customers are most interested in. So if you're outside of that, if you're not a local business owner or maybe like you're e-commerce or you do like a state or nationwide or worldwide traffic driving approach, don't click away. Watch this. You'll still learn some stuff. But again, we're talking about a particular goal, which is people visiting your website after searching your keywords and becoming leads. Okay, so the first question I have to ask is, do you have access to your website analytics? Because if we can't talk about these things and what to track if you don't have access to them. But this podcast is not about teaching you how to Google. So I will just say, if you've built your own website, go to Google and search how to find analytics for Wix site or Squarespace site or Google Analytics or WordPress. Like that is going to be something you can research where you can just go and find that out. That's going to be some technical stuff. So I'm operating under the assumption that you have access to your website analytics. There's many website providers that have that as part of the service. And if your website provider doesn't, there are third parties like Google Analytics that you can install that will track that for you. And if you need help with that, Google is going to be your best friend. I'm here to tell you what to do with the information that you're given, because even if you have a bunch of information, it doesn't actually help you unless you know what you're reading and you know what to do with it and you know what KPIs to track and measure and try to improve. Now, if you have a web guy like me, like if you're a NextRep website agency customer or a 97 Display website agency customer, you have access to all of this. It's all in our dashboard. You can access it. Now, if you have a web guy and you're paying them and he hasn't given you access, you should just fire him. That's like websites 101. So you got to have access to your analytics, and it is the responsibility of your web guy. That should have come pretty much first and foremost. You should have immediate access to that. Now, assuming you have access to these analytics, let's define what things are and what is important to track and to understand. So the most important things in my mind, the questions to ask are, how many people are visiting your site? What are they doing on your site? How many are converting into leads, or how many are doing what you want them to do? And then what things influence their conversion percentage? So these are the 4 questions that if you can answer them based on your website analytics, you're going to be ahead of the game. You're going to have far more power in the data than your competitors who aren't tracking or asking these questions. So these are going to be your core questions, and I'll share with you how to answer them. So in all analytics software, you're going to have something called visitors. Visitors is a more complex thing than just how many people are visiting your website, because most analytics, especially Google Analytics, tracks visitors as like, I visited page A, that's a visit. I visited page 2, that's a visit. And so visitors get counted more often. And what we're really diving into is how many eyeballs are visiting your site. And so that's going to be called something called a unique visitor. A unique visitor is someone who is like one computer that is visiting your website, and it doesn't matter how many pages they go to. So it really gives us more accurate insight. Now, this gets even more complex, because what happens if someone Googles you, looks on your website, doesn't convert? Then they leave you, and then they come back the next day. Is it counted as more than one unique visitor? Well, this is called a returning visitor. And so a lot of websites, especially Chrome, like a browser, will have certain tools like cookies to track what websites are being visited, and so they can give proper analytics. And so you're really looking for unique visitors, or even unique visitor profiles. So unique visitor profiles is something that has to do with like their actual Chrome profile. Now, Chrome accounts for the majority of traffic online. And I like looking at Chrome data when determining analytics, because let's say that someone visits your website from their browser, their computer, and they're logged into their email. And then they leave your website and the next day visit from their phone. Most analytics is going to track this as 2 unique visitors, when in reality it's only 1. And that's what's so challenging, because if you log in and you say 100 unique visitors, but it's actually 100 unique devices, and it just was 50 people, visiting on their computer and their cell phone, then that's going to give you flawed conversion rate data. Because if it's actually only 50 humans, then your lead expectations should be lower than 100 humans. And so that's really what we're trying to get to with visitors, is how many unique humans visited your website. And that question is much harder to answer based upon frequency of visits as well as different devices. And so what you want to do with Google Analytics is dive into the criteria behind how they determine a unique visitor. And if possible, identify a unique visitor profile that is consistent within 1 month. So if one person visits your website 3 times before becoming a lead, we really want to make sure that's only counted as one unique visitor profile, regardless if they use multiple devices to do so, because that will give you a proper understanding of how many opportunities for leads you're getting. Most of the time when you look at visitors, it is a far greater number than the actual number of unique humans looking at your site. Especially if you are including unique visitors from outside of your geographic area, which is something that I see. It's a challenge, and I can understand why it's deflating. For a lot of times, you might look at your Google Analytics and be like, oh my gosh, I got 1,000 visitors last week. Probably you didn't get 1,000 people in your local community going to your website. Like, that probably didn't happen. It's probably a number much less than that. And so while increased traffic might feel good and look good, it's only important. It's really important to get that accurate so that you can have proper expectations of lead opportunity. So don't just take visitor data at face value. Dive into how it's calculated. And if you're using Google Analytics or a third party, try to look for unique visitors or unique visitor profiles to get a clearer understanding of the number of human eyeballs looking at your website. I really only care about unique visitors. That's the only kind of stat that I give to my customers because that's the most accurate thing. And I educate my customers on that as well. So we're all on the same page. Okay, moving on to acquisition overview or referral source. So if you log into your Google Analytics, you'll see something called acquisition overview or referral source. So this is answering the question, where did the traffic come from? And the reason why you should care about this is that it gives you an understanding of what marketing things are working. And also, does the referral source impact the probability that person becomes a lead? And this is especially important when looking to improve referral sources. I have a really interesting story that has to do with Google My Business that I think I'm going to actually jump to here. Oh, not yet. Okay, let's get back. Okay, moving on to acquisition overview or referral source. So if you log into Google Analytics, you're going to see something called acquisition overview or the referral source. So this is very important because it is talking about where your traffic is coming from. And where your traffic comes from, believe it or not, has a huge impact on the probability that person will convert into a lead. And to give an example, it's like if you send out an email to your base that says, I'm giving away free t-shirts. And then you send them to a link on your website. And when they go to the link on your website, it has nothing to do with free t-shirts. You're not going to get many conversions, if that makes sense, because the source sets their expectation for the experience on the site. Google My Business page is the best example for this. I just was talking with the local business owner yesterday, and they had 176 five-star Google reviews. 176 five-star Google reviews. And they ranked number one in their area for their keywords, and they had a lot of traffic coming from Google My Business as their referral source. Now, what that meant for them was that when people clicked onto their website, their expectations of the business was already super high. They already were expecting a high quality business. And when they clicked onto their website, guess what? It's a terrible website. It's outdated. It's broken. It doesn't work well. And he's still managing to get 3 to 5 leads a day from his crappy website in a population of about 40,000 people, only because of how powerful his Google My Business page was. Like, it's amazing. So people will give your website a second chance if the source is high quality. Like, if your source is an influencer, and that influencer has a high trust with their network, and they share your link, you can have a worse website and you're still going to get leads because the source is so good. So where this impacts your ability to track your analytics is if you see a source and that source is driving a lot of traffic, and then you go and you improve that source, like Google My Business or your Facebook or Twitter or emails, you will de facto improve your website conversion rate. And that now we're beginning, I hope this is an aha moment for you to realize conversion rate, the ultimate goal of more leads, is even more than your website. It's like the overall perception of your brand, and that is influenced by your website primarily, but also referral sources. So where did your traffic come from? So the first step is just, do you know where your traffic's coming from? Look at it, the most common traffic. You want to go and improve that source and give even the first step of the journey a really good boost, whether it's completing a profile, adding more reviews, or who knows. So that is acquisition overview or referral source. That is basically where you're getting traffic from. Conversion percentage is how many visitors do what you want them to do. And this is typically defined as tracking visitors to a thank you page. So like if you have a page that says thank you for submitting your information, technically the only traffic allowed on that page would be people that have just converted their information. So you know that if you get 100 visitors on your thank you page, then you have 100 leads. And that's most of the time how conversion rates are tracked. Most of the time, you have to tell your analytics tracker what you want to define as a conversion rate. Google Analytics or Wix or Squarespace, they don't know what it is that you want your website to do. Now, I know from my customers, like when I build a website for them, we are aligned on the goal. It's leads. So I know the conversion rate is straightforward. Unique visitors to action takers. If you have 10 unique visitors, how many people become a lead? And obviously, we want the most amount of people as possible. Conversion rate is what I live and breathe and sleep and eat. Like, that is all I really care about. I don't care if you're like if you're getting 1,000 unique visitors and a bad conversion rate, then I don't really care about the visitors. The first thing I want to do is get a high conversion rate, and then I want to scale traffic from quality referral sources so that your conversion rate remains constant. Like I'll have clients that have had a high conversion rate percentage. They're, say, averaging 30 leads a month. And then they're like, wow, if I just boost traffic, I'm going to get, if I have 30 leads a month from 300 unique visitors, then if I had 600 unique visitors, I'm going to get 60 leads a month. But if they go and they source that traffic from bad sources and then the conversion rate plummets, like, that's not a good thing. So you want to make sure your conversion rate stays the same or increases as your traffic grows by making sure you're driving quality traffic to your website. This is the most important analytic to track. I'm always looking to improve this metric. Everything you do should be centered around this. And this is like, if your ultimate goal is leads, which I hope is our ultimate goal, most of the time people think get more leads, drive more traffic. But that's not necessarily true. You can also get more leads with the same traffic by simply increasing the conversion rate. 9 times out of 10, when I onboard a website customer, I move them from their existing website that has existing traffic. I move them onto our website. We are going to see a conversion rate percentage increase immediately. Most of the time, it is of the magnitude of 3 to 4 times as many leads, and that is not increasing traffic. That's just increasing conversion rate. So imagine 4 times as many leads without paying for more traffic or sourcing more traffic. And it's just simply the technology and design of your website. That is what I'm so passionate about when it comes to the psychology of local business owner websites and the consumers that visit them. Like, wow, if you just change your messaging, if you just change your format, if you just give your visitors what they're asking for, you can see 3-4 times more leads by small changes that are free. It's not, you're not seeing any more traffic. It's really, really, really important. Conversion rate is the ticket to do that. Another analytic jargon that you might come across is user sessions. User sessions are important to track because you want to look for device. And you're going to be shocked at conversion rate discrepancies between devices or browsers. Now, this is a little bit like website conversion improvement AP. Like, this is the honors course. So if you're already overwhelmed when thinking about conversion rates and driving traffic and sources, just take that and start with the learning about your sources and defining a conversion rate. But if you really want to go to the honors level, we're going to dive into user sessions. User sessions is like what device someone's coming from. And then you can look to see for trends. Like, did I have 100 people from an iPhone? Like 100 people came from an iPhone. What was the conversion rate from that iPhone traffic? And is it different than desktop traffic? And I can promise you it is different, right? Your mobile conversion rate is going to be different than your computer conversion rate. And you want to just see, well, which one's better, right? Is your desktop better or is your mobile phone better? And you go to which one, and you just pretend that you're a user. Look at your website from a device. And with the data that you're finding through user sessions, you could be like, wow, why would the conversion rate be less? And you can just take a stab at it. Like, okay, maybe it's less on my phone because of this. You can also look, if you really want to do super nerdy stuff, you can look at which browsers they're using. And you can see, is there a discrepancy between Internet Explorer and Chrome and Firefox? And you'll find that your website actually loads differently on different browsers. It's not the same. It is loaded differently, and it will impact your conversion rate. And so one of the ways that I and my website agency increases conversion rates is by making sure that it looks good and functions correctly across all browsers. Because even if 10% of your traffic is coming from Internet Explorer, if your website's broken on Internet Explorer, which many of your websites are, when was the last time you looked at your website on Internet Explorer? If you want to increase your lead volume by 10%, simply look good on Internet Explorer, right? Because if 10% of your traffic is coming from that browser and it's broken on that browser, you're missing out on 10% of opportunities. So again, these are the little things that you can track for little red flags. Now, it's kind of like whack-a-mole. There's always going to be little moles that pop up of opportunity, like, Internet Explorer optimization, Chrome optimization, mobile phone optimization, Google Android optimization, old iPhone optimization. And you really just want to look at what is the overall opportunity, because if you're seeing, like, you can't do it all, but you can look at your top 3 devices and make sure, like through user sessions, that you are optimized for at least those top 3. And you might be surprised that one of those top 3 has a very different user experience. And so if you just fix that one, you might see an increase in leads. So if you find a discrepancy, become the user and see what they see. Like, load on that browser, load on that device, see what they see, diagnose the problem, fix it. Okay, another thing that is really interesting to track is bounce rate. So this is really asking how many people hate your website. Bounce rate is how many people visited your website and then immediately left. This is really bad for SEO. Google actually will penalize your SEO if your bounce rate is high. My next podcast is going to be about first fold optimization, which is the first thing that people see when they visit your website. The first thing that people see, and your load speed is the number one indicator for your bounce rate. If you have a fast load speed and you have a high bounce rate, that means that whatever message you're giving them in the very beginning of their experience on your site is not what they're looking for, and they're bouncing. And you know how this works because you do it yourself as a Google consumer. You go to websites, you give it 1 second, and you click back, right? So we want to make sure that their first experience is very, 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 very intuitive and exactly what it is that they're looking for. We'll talk about that in the next podcast. If you use Google Analytics, bounce rates here are notoriously inaccurate. There's a big bug that happened a long time ago with them tracking like bots and a variety of other things, and bounce rates went through the roof. I think they cleaned it up a little bit. I use a third party when tracking bounce rates called Mixpanel, and that works a lot more accurately for me. But for a general rule of thumb, you will always have some bounce rate, but you really want to make sure that this bounce rate is as low as possible. And then exit pages. Exit pages is kind of like bounce rates, but it's not exactly. It's where have people left your website if they haven't become a lead. So it's like, if you see that 50% of your non-lead traffic is leaving on a particular page, you might be able to diagnose what their journey is and what needs to happen to change. So definitely take a look at exit pages where people leave your website, and you can look to improve that page to capture more of that traffic into leads for your business. So what should you track with all this information? If you're just getting started, track how many unique visitors in the last 30 days and how many leads did you have, and that's your conversion percentage. Always focus on increasing traffic. Always focus on increasing traffic and sustaining conversion percentage. So if you know you have 1,000 unique visitors, you want to grow that, but you want to make sure that your conversion rate remains the same, because if you double your leads, but if you double your traffic, but your leads remain the same, then that's really not doing you any good. And you always want to A/B test things for increasing conversion rate. And so the best way to increase conversion rate, other than improving sources like we talked about, or looking at device conversion rate discrepancies, is by just A/B testing. So A/B test the text on your first fold, like the first thing, your big slogan. A/B test your lead form button text. A/B testing is running a test with like a website, and then seeing what your conversion rate is, and then making one small change on your website and making that change and then tracking that stat. Now, there's a lot of software that will allow you to actually split traffic between different iterations. It's really cool. Your website platform might have this. If you're on ClickFunnels, I know that's included. On ClickFunnels, there's a variety of different ways to A/B test. I would certainly research how to A/B test on blank, your website platform. If you're with us, we A/B test for you. But what to do when improving your conversion rate? When you A/B test, your version A is going to have a conversion rate. Your version B is going to have a conversion rate. You just want to choose the winner. And if one of those versions has a better conversion rate, you choose that one, then you A/B test something different. And you just do that forever. That is the only way to increase your conversion rate on a consistent, regular basis and get traction there. Manually A/B testing is the most difficult. It requires some administrative effort, but I would say it's well worth it because really there's no other way to magically improve your conversion rate. And if you're not tracking that and you're not testing things, what do you expect to happen? It just magically improve one day? If you're going to pay a website agency, this would be something that I would certainly ask them is like, are you running any A/B tests? And that if they have that as a package, it's definitely worth it. It should be included from your website agency. And of course, humble brag, we do this on behalf of our clients because that's the only way that we can actually demonstrate that we're improving their results. I can't say, oh, you get X percentage on conversion rate on your website and you're going to have that forever. Well, like, what are we doing to improve that? We're always testing, always pivoting. And frankly, what's working today doesn't necessarily work in the future. Technology is changing, devices are changing, it's pivoting so fast all the time. We must always be testing. So your ultimate goal here is you want your traffic growth to be a percentage of your population. Like if you live in a population of 5,000 people, you're just not going to get that much traffic. But if you live in a population of 1 million people, your expectations could be higher. You want consistent conversion rate growth, or at least remaining consistent for predictability. If you're A/B testing like different pages, I mean, you're always looking for that slight improvement, and you're always looking for that slight improvement to continue to grow and grow and grow and grow. And with this, you can count on a specific range of leads every single month forever. How cool is that? Like, wouldn't that be really cool to have a system in place where you know I'm going to get X number of leads a month, and I'm A/B testing to where if I make this improvement, that could uptick by 1 or 2. I'm going to grow my traffic, and I know my conversion rate is this, so it's going to uptick by 1 or 2. And that is how you're going to get leads on autopilot forever from your website. It's a magical thing. It's really cool. And hopefully that really pumps you up and gets you excited that that's an opportunity. And it requires you to remember that it all starts with your website. If you want to have the biggest impact on your community, if you want to be the go-to service provider in your town, it all starts with your website. And the analytics are the oil inside of it. It's the measurement of how your website's working. It's how you gauge if your website's good or not. So you got to be able to track your analytics, and this information will get you started. Thanks, guys. See you in the next episode.